Hey guys, Jeff here at MACkite.
I'm Tucker, and we have special guest Marco Winder here, the legend, local legend. It's kind of like Bigfoot for the lakes.
Totally. We could not do a surf discussion video without having Marc here.
And I just happened to walk in.
Just happened to walk in.
A couple minutes ago on a whim.
And to blow a lot of you guys out here, he's wearing the shirt he's wearing is one of his favorite foils. The MPs.
Yeah. Bringing it, throwing it back.
Medium slim.
But medium slim. But what I will add, when you start talking about surfing, there's skill. And we got some skill right here when it comes to surfing. So I love it. But yeah, we're gonna kind of just dive into a little discussion about the surf foils, and we saw a few different brands that have a dedicated, well, when we say dedicated, a surfier foil.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about wings that are good in the surf. So kind of a segue into part 2 of this, we're gonna discuss a little bit about what are some of the foils that we're selling and the brands that our customers are really enjoying to surf. And I know winging and foiling has really made the feeling of surfing accessible for even the old guys. Now these guys got surf history going way back.
Well, maybe I can speak for me and Mark. It's not even necessarily more accessible, but just a higher level of performance and fun on your everyday mushy monster kind of waves, especially what we got here. You know, you can only surf it so much before you're like, okay, kind of hitting my limits here. Either got to travel or, you know, find a way to level up the experience and make it a bit more high performance and fun, and take advantage of those kind of everyday sessions. Because, I mean, if it's 6 foot and barreling, I think we're still paddling in surfing, but that doesn't happen too often around here anyway. So you can get that same kind of rush and excitement foiling some little knee-high waves.
Right.
Even on an inland lake or reservoir or anywhere.
Yeah, totally.
A little swell. So, yeah, so I think we're going to talk a little bit about 4 different brands. We sell more than these 4 brands, but these are 4 brands, I think, starting with North and their SF series.
Yeah.
The Code S and the F1 Skate.
Yep.
And you also wanted to throw in, I think.
Yeah, the UniFoil Evolution is another one for wing foil surfing and even prone surfing. Is a fun new one to throw in the mix, because I think historically UniFoil has been more surf, prone, paddleboard, that kind of stuff, downwinding, and with their new Evolution series, that really opens the door to that, winging performance where there's more speed, more glide, a bit more high speed ripability rather than just that kind of slow to medium speed, surfability. Right. So it's that level up of performance that we're tapping into winging a lot of times.
And you kind of just dove into some characteristics that we look for in a surf wing. And also, we mentioned earlier the NP and Cabrina, which we'll let you speak on here in a little bit, which are brands that have sold many of these foils to our customers. But when we think of a surf foil, those that maybe are listening or watching this video are either curious or they already do a lot of surfing and foil surfing. But the characteristics we look for, obviously, is glide, pumpability, to pump over to waves, get to poach different waves. Surfability, obviously we're talking about the word surfing when we talk about pivot and roll, being able to turn and carve. And so those are kind of some of the themes that we're going to cover from our experience riding some of these foils. I like to use the word trade-off, and I would like to also say if I had a video of any 3 of us riding any of the foils that we're talking about, we'd probably look about the same. But we would know, based on our riding experience, the trade-offs we're feeling and the input that we need to give, what the differences would be. So really, I feel a lot has come a long way in the last 2 years when we're talking about foils and the technology and the engagement of getting a lot of people on the water and being able to get into a wave and manage it. There's different styles of riding waves. I mean, they're all great. Just when you first get on a wave and don't have to use the wing and you're just going down the line. I mean, that's huge. I know we talked earlier, Tucker, about surf riding, foil surfing is reading waves is a huge thing. It's come full circle for me 2 to 3 years to figure that out. So just kind of want to set the stage. These are themes that we're going to visit as we talk about our experiences. We're not going to try to say that one's better than the other. There are different price points and performance points. but we have different trade-offs and feels as we ride them. So
Yeah, I think something to mention with regard to that is what's the conditions you're riding in, what kind of riding you're looking to do is really going to set the stage for which of these you choose, because they're all fantastic.
agree.
In really the nitty gritty, down to the what's the perfect one for you has a lot to do with where you are, what conditions you're riding, and what's that step that you're trying to take, or what's the obstacle prohibiting you from going to that next level in your riding. So I think that's really what separates these foils, because they are all so fantastic. I'm really quite happy to be riding any of them, to be honest, but what one I choose for a specific day or a certain set of conditions is going to change.
Can we frame our discussion and maybe the sizes that frames that we're looking at, like 600 up to 1100? Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I wouldn't even go down to 600. I mean, most real, everyday type conditions for average riders, I think 700 to 1100 is kind of a nice little bracket, that we're talking about, and that kind of frames in the majority of these foils in these lineups. They're smaller, but really your average rider, average conditions aren't going to venture any smaller than 700 unless they're towing in or they're just really lightweight or something like that.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback on that, and I'm going to pull Marc in here in a minute, that when you're discussing the sizes, I like what you said there. It really comes to speed and the amount of lift, in the foil too, that you're trying to manage. That maybe we can get into talking in a little bit. But Marc, why don't you just kind of tell us what sizes have you? I mean, you come from a big surf background, long history of surfing, and foiling. Mm-hmm. Where do you find yourself as your sweet spot when you talk about size and type of foil that you've been riding?
Well, now I've settled in the last year and a half on the medium aspect, lower aspect, I guess, relatively speaking, X Series 930 and
Cabrina.
Cabrina.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I'm riding, winging or even kite foiling. I'll just hop on it for light, easy kite foiling session. So just pull it off the 58-liter coat and throw it on my little tricked out carbon fiber skim board and go
And
kite foiling.
it doesn't hold you back.
No, I mean, not really. I mean, there's, of course, I can go a little smaller and thinner for if I want to go top end kite foiling or something like that, but it's just nice and easy and cruisy and comfortable and for winging, I love it. It feels literally, it feels like a surfboard underwater. It's got that nice smooth kind of predictable carvy feeling that I like to have out of a surfboard when I'm, on the face of a wave riding. As opposed to me, I mean, I do sacrifice a little bit of that glide when you kick out and you're trying to pump out to the next set, or go on a little roller coaster ride out the back.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta work pretty hard to get somewhere maybe.
Yeah, it's more of an in the pocket type.
And that's
more of an in the pocket.
And that's what I hear you say a lot, that you like about the size that you're on, that 900 to 1100 in the pocket, stays in the pocket, doesn't outrun it.
The 900s, the speed is for our waves and our short period, like on Lake Michigan, it's just like, for that 6, 7, occasionally 8-second period, anything waist to foot or two overhead, it's just kind of works in all that stuff, really. Then, maybe I'll hop on like the 1,000 centimeter higher aspect one that Cabrina came out with at the same time if I want a little bit more glide and if the waves are small and just want to pump around a little bit
and
more.
poach other waves.
Yeah,
I can contest, it does not hold you back surfing the wave at all.
Yeah. Right.
Occasionally when we're trying to do speed or pump around,
I notice you guys are
a little bit
going faster, and if the waves are like really small, like waist hires, and really you guys are like kind of getting ahead of me 10% or something. I can feel that, but most of the time if we're out there in the waves, anything decent, if it's got any kind of pocket at all, that 930. So I don't know, works good for me. And I've only been on maybe a dozen different foils, honestly, in my life. So it's not like I'm not like you guys were.
You have to spoil him one of these days. Yeah.
Well, I
put
think
something new under his feet, but
It's a good point to bring up, though. I have people call in, and there's a lot of information, a lot of videos, a lot of different brands making a surf foil that's going to make you top of your game. Mm-hmm. And what I like to say, and I think you just kind of emphasize that, when you get used to your foil and you're in the right size and for your conditions, you become #pro at it. And you get pro on that, you get really dialed and really good. Yeah. I mean, you look really smooth and really flowy with what I would consider a foil that the ones that we may talk about that seem to have a little bit more advantages, but your riding style and the way you stay in the pocket doesn't seem to be holding you back at all.
Yeah, I think feels good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
Yeah, feels good. How about you, Tuck? Where are you feeling you're landing with the four that we're talking about and some of the trade-offs that you've found?
Yeah, I think the big thing is realizing the sizing of them is a big thing. Especially comparing across brands like this, across models. A 950 is not a 950, and a 950. They're all quite different. So realizing where their ranges are can be quite different in choosing one of these, even if you know what size you want. So, I want an 850. I know I want something about 850. Well, 850 skate is a lot different than an 850 S series code.
Agree.
The S series code is going to have a lot more low end, a lot more pumpability, more glide. The skate's going to have a lot more rolling agility because of that narrower span. So I think realizing it's not just about size is a big thing. If anything, you want to compare wingspans. That's your number one point of comparison. If your wingspan is the same, they're going to ride very similarly. The roll is going to feel very similar. Even the range, even if there's 200 centimeters difference between two foils and the span is the same, they're still going to have a fairly similar range for an experienced rider. So that's something to consider, that it's not just about the size. If you ride one foil that's 800 and you want to buy an 800 foil, it's a completely different brand and shape. It's going to ride a lot differently. It's going to have a different range of use and application. So generally speaking, those wider aspects are going to have more glide, more speed range, but you're not going to have as much rolling maneuverability. So when do you need that? Usually that's in critical sections, in braking waves, steep waves.
Pitchier.
Where you're going to roll that sucker over and throw that G-force into it. If you're gliding, you're in the offshore, you're not really riding braking waves, you're just slow gliding waves. It's not going to hold you back at all because most of your turns are more yaw oriented anyway. And there might be some roll, but when you're rolling, you're staying on that face. You're not taking this tight in the pocket arc. It's very drawn out in keeping your speed, because if you take too hard of a turn, you're just going to fall off the back of the wave or lose momentum. So I think that's the application for the skate. It's more that braking, pitchy, more powerful wave. For the S series, it's more of that gliding, open swell type thing. But then if you size down on the S series, you can make it turn like that 850 in a smaller S series size. So, if you really like the skate 950 and the way it turns, but you're going into code, maybe jump down to the 850. It's going to feel a lot the same in terms of the range, the maneuverability, even though it's smaller. And that just has to do with the foil design and the aspect ratio. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because those are two foils I've spent a lot of time on. Last year, I spent a ton of time on the skate.
They're two of our shop favorites.
Yeah,
so
the skate
we
and the
all know
code.
them really intimately.
And this year, I've been able to spend a lot of time on the code, and where I see the trade-offs, to kind of piggyback on what you said, my pumpability kind of improved dramatically on the code, and I think it's because of that glide and that low stall speed.
Yep.
I still felt it was not quite as a trade-off as playful as my skate, but you could push the code. Like, you had to, if you pushed it, it gave you a little more feedback, but you could drive it pretty hard.
Right.
And I like that about that. Very stable foil, both of them. I would say the skate, in my experience, because I say playful, very turny. And the word skate's in it, skatey. It's really skatey. I would say it has a lot of acceleration when you turn it. Like, it feels like it just wants to accelerate. So again, you just have to adjust a little bit. I found myself being able to be off wing, holding the wing for power a little bit longer on the code, be able to poach and glide over to other waves a little easier. Not to say I couldn't do that on my skate. It just took a little different input.
Decelerates a little faster.
Yeah, a little bit.
It doesn't have that same low speed stability and glide.
Yeah.
Like you said, the pumpability on the low end. The code will pump out of a hole pretty easily.
It will, with not much input.
The skate takes a little bit more hard work. If you're about to stall and you're going to try to pump out of that, you're going to have to work for it.
Yeah. So I think, both of them, again, are very high performers when you want to ride the pocket. And I think, those are two, spending more time on them. It's just subtle adjustments that you have to make.
Yeah.
And look at it.
And then with the other ones, I'd say the SF is more akin to the skate.
Agree.
And it maybe a little bit more pumpability on the SF, size for size. And then the Evolution is somewhere between, the skate and the S series. It's a little thinner. It doesn't have quite as much camber and reflex in the design, so it just doesn't have that same low speed, but it's a certified glider and a ripper as well. Just if you want that blend, that's a great place to go. And both the new UniFoil torque mast and the Code High Modulus Plus are some of the stiffest setups in the game.
Agree.
So for heavier riders like me or Marco, I don't know if you
You're
qualify for
losing
heavy
some
anymore,
kilos
but
now, though. You guys
I'm
are
on
both-
90.
You guys are looking
I'm
at
on
your,
92.
you guys are
Yeah.
looking at your summer fight weight. Summer fight
So,
weight here.
we're at the perfect weight. Jeff's a little light, but yeah, having that extra stiffness when you're throwing those extra pounds of torque into the system is nice.
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit more to the SF North Series. I've been riding that a fair amount this year, and it kind of reminded me of a little bit of, Marc. I always admired how you could stay in the pocket. I mean, obviously you can read waves really well, but your foil wasn't as fast, so it would stay more in the pocket. And we talked about this a lot when we were on the beach. You could stay in that. I felt the SF was kind of an easier button for me to kind of just stay more in the pocket.
Sure.
So it appeared like it didn't have as much glide and speed, but it did a job. And I was able to stay more, as the waves got a little more pitchier, I didn't feel myself like getting spit out to the bottom as fast. I feel like I could manage it a little bit easier than maybe the Code or the Skate. Again, these are just subtle things you have to kind of like adjust a little bit in your mind and your stance and your input. But I felt the SF, I kind of joked the first few times I started riding it more in powered up waves. I was like, wow, it's like an old man easy button. It's like, it doesn't outperform. I mean, my skill set, I felt like it was right where it needed to be. I didn't have to like totally level up or feel like I'm, a little out of my element. It just felt like, wow, it's pretty stable, pretty smooth. Kind of like how I see him riding a lot on his, even the MP, right? We haven't talked about the MP. Did we talk about the MP? You said a little bit about it, the mid slim.
Yeah, that was a medium slim. Yeah, that was a great foil.
Great
to
surf
learn
foil,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
There's slow speed
I would
foil,
prone
yeah.
foil on it when I got it. I would kite foil on it, and then it was before I even started winging. I had that thing, and
Yes,
then
you did.
I learned how to wing, I guess, essentially.
Yeah, and that was kind of at the
On that
start of
foil.
the advent of like the higher aspect stuff, right? Whereas it
Yeah,
was a little
yeah.
more stretched out, a
more
little
stretched out.
thinner
Yeah,
profile.
yeah.
So
And super, by today's standards, quite low aspect.
yeah,
Yeah.
for then, but now or for then, yeah, it was pretty high aspect
Yeah,
for the
and
size.
I mean, I
anyway.
took it out the other day, and
Still does the trick.
I had fun on it. I was teaching a friend, and
Yeah.
took it out. It's got a little shorter mast, and it still works.
Nice.
I mean, I've gotten quarter-mile rides prone foiling on the thing, so it definitely works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you bring up
It's
a
got a
good.
slow stall speed, which is nice
It is nice,
Yeah.
especially when
when
you
you're
don't
learning.
that, and when you don't have a wave that just peels forever.
Yeah. Right.
You got to be able.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah,
off a
find
wave.
the
and-
You
shoulder.
be going like this fast, and you're still up on foil.
That's right.
Whereas a lot of foils, boom, you're dropping out of the sky, and that's annoying, especially if you're just learning, or even if you're a beginner, intermediate, and you got a foil that you got to really work and get board speed up to take off. Especially in marginal conditions, you're just going to be kind of.
I think you're touching on a
Beat
good
yourself
point.
up.
Yeah, is the speed of the foil versus the wave, because as a newer rider, I think sometimes you're better off having something that's a little slower.
I think so.
And a bit more in the middle of
Totally
its
agree.
range chunk,
With the real
because
easy
you can
takeoff.
slow down
Yeah.
a little
It's
bit.
an ego check,
and
too.
kind of fade off, and you're still gliding. But then the more experience you get, the more loose you want your foil to feel, more slippery, and also you want more room on the wave face, right? Because if you're always stuck going
down the line.
the same speed as the wave, you're staying in the same spot. Whereas, once you break out of that, you want to be able to come out to the shoulder and wrap back and come under
Yeah.
and go back out and back.
For sure.
And, overtake a wave in front of
Yeah.
you and whatever, do a loop and a backflip.
It's
And
called like a playground. Make it turn into a
yeah,
playground.
doing all that. But you can't
Totally.
do all that without speed.
Nope.
And you definitely
true.
can't do all that without some efficiency in the glide to compound that speed off that wave. Because if you're dragging a whole lot of drag, there's no way to accelerate even if the foil will allow it. So going smaller, as you progress more, you're going to have to ride with more speed, keep your speed. But that will allow you to venture outside of just being pushed by the wave like a surfboard, and actually get ahead of it and come back to it, and get ahead of it and come back to it and cross.
A little bit. I think it's too about the progression of wave riding on foil. The first time you ride, you're just happy to be in the right spot.
Yeah, get me to the shoulder where it's safe, and okay, maybe I'll glide
you hear
here
the
for a minute.
white water
yeah.
behind you, you stay out in front of it, but just gliding down and getting that sensation of glide, and then just riding down the line and then straight lining another one. that's where a lot of our customers are, and where a lot of what we do around here is, just poaching and riding straight. But when we talk about that's still surfing. But then there's surfing where you're actually carving and using the foil to your advantage on the wave and using the real estate of the wave that you just talked about. And I know we've had a discussion about wing wave wings that we can use to turn it more into more playfulness and freestyle. And I think you touched a little bit on that, and some of the foils that we're talking about, like the Code and the Skate and the SF. You can not only use the same wave and surf it, but you can poach others behind you, pump into the other one and do a heel side turn into the power or toe side, So those are all things that can kind of enhance the experience as we look at these with a little bit higher aspect versus the slower, more set you up and stay there.
Yeah. And well, we kind of got into that stuff. Maybe we talk about some of the componentry on some of this stuff, because it's not just the front wing.
True.
I think, what we can say about what we enjoy most here, generally 80 to 85 centimeters, maybe a tiny bit longer mast length. Fuselage lengths, it's hard to compare because everybody measures them different, names them different, but Code, small and medium is kind of where we're at a lot of times for wave riding. You talk about the
SF,
SF
650, 700.
650.
I like the 650.
Yeah, the 600 even. You can kind of play with between those depending on your stab choice and
your
what
style.
you're doing, and your board length and style. Code, or what did we already do? Code. UniFoil, small, medium. Again, is going to be kind of the
Skate.
point on
We
that.
haven't talked about. They do the XS, XS, XXS. Triple
XXS.
X.
So depending on what you're choosing there, but I would say most of us here in the shop are liking the extra small stuff and the extra small stuff, which is,
I would agree,
comparatively
extra
a
small.
small to medium size in other brands.
And I've done I've set them all next to each other. Yeah, they're very similar.
Yep.
In that, and again, we're talking about foils generally around that 700 to 1100 range to pair with that. The rear stabs,
Yeah, almost as important as the front wing in surfing, honestly,
is.
because the rear stabilizer gets a lot more action than in most types of foiling, where you're actually asking it to navigate through turns and push you in and out of turns and give you that liveliness in the turn rather than just stabilize it in a flying flat flight. So you're asking a lot more from the stab. It's a much more critical component, I think, than most people realize. So for Code, S series in an appropriate size for your wing, usually somewhere between the 142 and 158 for those sizes we've discussed.
Yep.
UniFoil Evolution, Afterburner 14.5, 13.5, they're great. Progression, tails if you want something a little slower and easier with that.
So I've been generally riding a little bit smaller stab just for the releasability and maneuverability and speed. You can sacrifice a little pumpability and glide when you go to a
Going
smaller.
a little longer on the fuse helps
Yeah,
with that,
longer on the fuse does help. I tend to like the medium size. I don't really small. I got to dabble a little more into that. The little shorter ones, you lose a little bit of that stability, and it can get But again, you can adjust to that.
Yeah, it can feel a little hyper, but I think
Yeah.
if you have a short board, it makes sense. If you have a longer board, there's no reason to go with a short fuse.
That's a good point.
But
I don't think many people.
we can go into that in more
I was
detail
going to say
maybe
that's a
another
whole
video.
different
but,
conversation. How
yeah.
about you, Mark? Do you know what you ride? Your stabs? That
For
you ride?
F1s, though.
Switched it the other day.
Did you?
I started on the 180 with that, and then I went up to the 230.
Yeah.
Cabrina stab, and
Sure,
then I thought, well, I'll get more pumped to kind of compensate for being on the lower aspect to 930, which I guess maybe I did, but then I realized actually Pat Taylor took it for a spin the other day, and he's like, I think it's going too slow with this. Really
Yeah,
tour stab.
too much drag
Yeah,
on it.
I think you might be right, because we're actually out kite foiling and just carving up when tacks, and and we noticed it would kind of want to slow down,
Stall
stall
a
out.
little, yeah.
So yeah, I switched back to the 180, and I'm like,
There it is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's where it's supposed to be, and now I've just left that on there, and that's what I was winging.
Yeah, and the
with the
180
other
even
day,
is a
and-
little big for the 930, at least
Is
as
it?
by
Okay.
today's standards.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I could see that.
This
But
guy breaks the mold, though.
it was a little bit.
he does. He can ride anything.
You can ride it all. I've seen you ride it all and make it look pretty good. And you've ridden some of the stuff that we're talked about. The skate. You've been on the skate before.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
And
it's
I
sweet.
think it's one thing to say, though, whenever you do switch up a foil, there is an adjustment period a little bit to get into the little nuances and such, and you get used to what you ride. But
Some you
But
hop
the really
on.
good ones are super intuitive, I think.
I was gonna say
I
some
would
you hop
agree.
on and you're
And you're
like,
just
all right, this is
locked
it.
in, baby.
Yep.
Yeah, like it fits your
sure.
butt.
I would say of the ones of the ones we've talked about, for me, all the ones we've talked about, because I've rode the Cabrina, I've run the MPs. MPs is really smooth and easy to engage with. I would say North and Code, to me, were real. I got up on it, and I was like, it feels like home, man. Not much talk back, not much feedback. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel smooth.
I think all of them in this category. I
Yeah.
felt the same way on the SF. Maybe it took a minute just to feel, where it wanted to fly. But sometimes too, you guess right on the track position and it feels
You
great.
do.
Other times you
It's a
don't. And it
lottery.
doesn't feel that great. For the UniFoil stuff, it's a bit more technical. So I think for some people, they're not putting in the right shim at first, or whatever, And I think for most people in this range of foils, anywhere between half a degree and a degree and a half is sort of your sweet spot. I really like the 1 degree on like the 900, 1000 style foils. Go a little flatter on the ones that are smaller than that. They just don't need quite as much pitch to them, and they're already pretty lively. So
I'm not a shim
with
guy.
that known, I think
Yeah.
that's something they could do better, is informing people like, hey, this is the basic stabilizer shim.
Yeah.
Rather than giving you 6 shims in a box and go, yeah, figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, we have customers that are like yourself, Tuck. Shim does make a big difference. I've experienced that in some of the foils that we sell. I'm not a shim guy. I prefer to take it out of the box, put the screws in, and ride.
And you can't do that with UniFoil because you have to put a shim in.
You do, and
And if you put 0 in thinking, oh, 0's neutral, no, 0's
because
flat.
you're gonna think this thing's not any good.
Yeah.
There's some other foils that we sell that I did not shim, and I'm like, this thing, what?
Not quite
And you're
right,
like,
yeah.
you didn't shim it right. So, I'm just speaking on my behalf that I don't know, I like to mess with them a little bit, maybe down the road, but I do like to out of the box,
Yeah, and most of these do, and I think the UniFoil does, assuming you know what shim to use.
Yeah.
So if you have that question and you're UniFoil, talk to us or
ask for Tuck.
reach out to
'Cause
them.
I don't do
give you a
shim.
good idea.
Just kidding.
But yeah, the others that we've been talking about all
don't
ride
shim
really
either.
great
You don't
out of the
shim either?
box.
I don't shim.
They don't need a shim that
I mean, if
right
he
out
tells
of
me
the
how to
box.
shim, I'll shim. Otherwise, I'm not shimming.
Well, and everything you're riding doesn't require it. It rides,
Yeah.
kind of standard out of the box in a preset position, which is great. But it's nice to have them on hand too if you do want to play with it a little bit and expand the range of what your foil can do, or to a specific type of feel that you like.
Good.
So that's fun stuff.
Well, I think we covered a lot of territory. We hit the mast, we hit the front wing, the stabilizers, the fuselage.
One thing we didn't mention was the F1 fuselages we're liking. So typically carving series, I think, is what we consider carving W, stands for winging. Those have a little longer fuselage, a little smaller, thinner profile.
You're talking about the mono.
The monoblocks,
blocks.
yeah, basically they're all monoblock
141
now.
is what I like to ride.
161W,
161, the 141.
200 carving on the bigger size of the skate, like the 1050, ride really good on that. Even on the 950, it rides quite well.
I've done the 200 downwind on the 1150.
Not the downwind. I'm talking about the carving 200. But
I've used the downwind on those before.
yeah, I've used them on as well. They're not quite as fun in the turn.
No,
They're
they
a
lock
bit-
in a
you
little
got
more.
A bit more babysitting, but a tad bit more glide.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot of bases here with the surf style foils that we talked to a lot of our customers about, that we have spent a lot of time on ourselves. I know you and I have, and now you've spent time on the ones I've ridden.
Yeah.
And you've switched them out, and
Yeah.
and
They all have their own characteristics. Almost everything has some little feature in the feel of it that's different
Yeah.
than the other one, for sure. So
Yeah,
there's
and
personal
does it feel
preference.
better for you, or does it allow you to do
right.
this better?
yeah.
And usually you're giving up something too if you're gaining something.
Usually, yeah.
At
There's-
least a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's a balance of variables. So I think talking to somebody that's ridden all these and discussing what you want to do and what you're riding and what your conditions present, we can give you a real targeted recommendation on what's
sure.
going to work best.
It's not all what's best. It's just trade-offs and the unique characteristics. I think we nailed it. It's a good way to wrap it up. I mean, it's a lot of exciting things in foils and a lot of advancements that have made engagement and wave riding easier, and you can progress. On the gear that you're riding, and if you have questions, about any of the brands we covered, maybe some of the ones that we sell that we did get to cover on this video that do have some surfability foils in their lineup, we'd be happy to help you out here. Again, it's Jeff here from MACkite.
Marc, aka Winder.
And Tucker.
Tucker.
See you next
Enjoy,
time.
enjoy this dope.
Thanks.